तस्मै श्री नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामीति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी विचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे Hare Krishna. So today Prabhuji's Wi-Fi is not working, so we'll not be having Krishna Chakravarti Thakur's commentaries. Directly we'll just take Prabhupada's purports. I'll just read the translations for the verses to get to remember what is happening. So here Vidura is asking Maitreya Muni. So it starts with Sudhir Goswami said, O king, while Maitreya, the great sage, was thus speaking, Vidura, the learned son of and Vyas, expressed a request in a pleasing manner by asking this question. So, what he wanted to know? Vidura said, O great Brahmana, since the personality of God it is complete, spiritual, whole, and is unchangeable, how is he connected with material modes of nature and their activities? If this is his pastime, how do the activities of the unchangeable takes place and exhibit qualities without the modes of nature? The first question. And he says, boys are enthusiastic to play with other boys or with various diversions because they are encouraged by desires. But there is no possibility of such desires for the Lord because he is self satisfied and detached from everything all. So, how is it that Lord is doing such activities? That means the motivation is encouraged by desires. But for Supreme Lord, there is nothing like that. He's not affected by material. So why is he doing these things? Then he asks, by self sheltered potency of the three modes of material nature, the Lord has caused the creation of this universe. By her, he maintains the creation and conversely dissolves it again and again. Material nature is she, is energy of Lord. That's why she. And next look at the pure soul. Actually, we have read all these things. I'm just taking the translations to make you as what is happening here. The pure soul. So the questions are so important. So it is directly asking how Lord is connected to the material world, even though he's spiritual. Why how he's affected by modes of nature. Second question is the children are playing. They want to do different activities because they have different desires. Lord is also doing some activities here. Is he also motivated by some desires? That was the two questions about the about the Lord, and then one is about material nature. By his sheltered potency of three modes of nature, the Lord has caused the creation of this universe. By her, he maintains the creation and conversely dissolves it. So one question is about the material nature, Maya. Now about the soul. Yes, the pure soul is pure conscious and never out of consciousness, either due to circumstances, time, situations, dream or others. How then does he becomes engaged in essence? Now he's asking about the spirit soul, how he is affected, even though he is not, he is pure. The spirit soul is pure, how he is affected. And next earlier, the Lord as a super soul is situated in every living being's heart. Why then do the living entities activity results in misfortune and misery? So this is another interesting question. So this question is also about the living entities only. Okay, living entity is pure, and there is Supreme Lord who is there in the heart of living entity who is guiding. Still why they are doing mistakes? And then, oh great learned one, my mind is greatly illusioned by the distress of this nuisance, and therefore I request you to, so I want to know Supreme Lord's, how his connection, what is he doing about my material nature, about living entity, why he is entangled, even though he's pure. Basically, three questions. Three means one about Supreme Lord, one matter nature, one it about the living entities. So these are the three parts of his questions. Now for this, and he asks in 5 shlokas. So Anka says, Sukadeva Goswami said, O king, Maitreya being thus agitated by the inquisitive Vidura at first seemed astonished, but then he replied to him without hesitation, since he was fully got conscious. Maitreya knows the answers. Maitreya, these questions are always bewildering for living entities. These questions, many places we get in Bhagavatam and different answers. Different answers means different levels of answers. And Maitreya said, certain conditioned souls put forward the theory that the Supreme Brahman or the personality of Godhead is overcome by illusion or Maya. At the same time, they maintain that he is unconditioned. That is against all logic. So this is the first thing. Brahman or that he's telling, Arey, there is no chance that the Supreme Lord is an illusion. If you say it, then it is against logic. It is not possible. This is a very important logical explanation that Prabhupada gave. We have read the purport of it. Maybe we can do it again because the answers are so important. We have to remember the logic which Prabhupada gave. He says that sometimes it appears that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is 100% spiritual, cannot be the cause of illusory potency which covers the knowledge of individual soul. But factually, there is no doubt that the illusory external energy is also part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. When Vyasadeva realized the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he saw the Lord along with this external potency which covers the pure knowledge of living entities. That means Lord is there and Maya is there, and Maya is under the control of Lord. But this Maya, what it does, it covers the living entity. That is the problem. But so we cannot understand the Lord. Why the external energy acts in this way may be considered as follows, as analyzed by great commentators like Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Srila Jiva Goswami. Although the material, illusory energy is distinct from the spiritual energy, it is still one of the many energies of the Lord, and thus the material modes of nature, the mode of goodness, etc., are surely qualities of Lord because the energy and the energetic Vasana Yoga are non-different. Yet, although the material energy is one with the Lord, he is never overpowered by it. The living entity, however, who are also part and parcel of Lord, can be overcome by the material energy. This is first point. One is that material energy is controlled by Lord. We are controlled by material energy. So these are the two things. Now, further, Prabhupada gives some important things. The inconceivable yoga Ishwaryam of the Lord, as mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, is misunderstood by the froggish philosophers in order to support a theory that Narayana becomes a Daridra Narayana, a poor man. They propose that the material energy overcomes the Supreme Lord. Srila Jiva Goswami and Vishwanath Chakravarti, however, offers a very nice example in explanation. They say that although the sun is all light, the clouds, darkness, and snowfall are all part and parcel of sun. That means these all things are clouds. How they are found? Because of sun only. Sun evaporates water, then clouds are formed. How darkness? When sun is not there, there is darkness. How snowfall? It's same thing. Evaporation, and it accumulates and it forms as a snow. All these things are part and parcel of sun. Without sun, there is no possibility of skies being overcast by cloud or darkness, nor can there be snowfall on earth. Sometimes because of clouds only it is darkness. That means sun is causing the darkness. Sometimes, like yesterday, we are having very thick clouds. We are not able to see. It became dark. Who is the cause? Sun only. Although life is sustained by the sun, life is also disturbed by darkness and snowfall produced by sun. But it is also a fact that the sun itself is never overcome by darkness. So the clouds on a small tiny planet of Earth will never affect the sun. Sun is so far, so big, millions of times bigger than Earth. And some small planet and some part of some city there are clouds. How does it affect the sun? Fine. Only those who have a poor fund of knowledge say that the sun is covered by the cloud of darkness. Similarly, the Supreme Brahman or the Parabrahman, the personality of Godhead, is always unaffected by the influence of material energy, although it is one of its energies. Parasha Shakti. So it is the logic is very simple. That Maya is covered by Lord, Maya covers the living entity. There is no reason to assert that the Supreme Brahman is overpowered by illusory energy. The clouds, darkness, and so forth can cover only a very insignificant portion of the sun's rays. Similarly, the modes of material nature may react upon the ray-like living entities. It is misfortune of living entities, certainly not without reason, that the influence of material energy acts on its pure consciousness and eternal bliss. So it acts on us. This covering up of pure consciousness and eternal bliss is due to avidya karma, the energy which acts on the infinitesimal living entities who misuse their minute independence. So, although the living entity are qualitative one with superior energy of Lord, they have the tendency to be overpowered by the inferior material energy because we are so small, we are influenced, even though we are qualitatively same with the Lord. In the Vedic hymns, it is said that the living entity are like the sparks of fire, right? So this example we know. And the clear conclusion, Supreme Lord, who is original fire, is never overpowered by the infinitesimal sparks. We have read this. So we'll again go for the next one. The living entity is in distress regarding his self-identity. Now, he told about the Supreme Lord. He's never get influenced. Now he's telling about the living entity. He has no fundamental, no factual background like a man who dreams that he sees his head cut off. This is a very nice example. Now, we had a question that whether the living entity is suffering, who experiences the pain? Is that living entity who experiences pain, or is it the false ego that experiences the pain? Like we were discussing example yesterday. Our teacher used to, English teacher used to make girls slap the boys if they didn't do their homework or they did not do good in their exam. That time it was there. Now I don't think it will allow like that. But that time it was, of course, we have so much love and appreciation for our teacher. Whatever she did out of love for us. Because her son is also part of our, he's also in the same class. So we are all like, so nobody has any problem with her. Now, but there was a problem. The problem is when girls come and slap, it is not that it is very painful. It is not painful to the body, it is painful to the ego. That means ego got hurt. Now it looks like ego is suffering. But some places we see the soul is suffering. Who exactly suffers? So this is actually a very important question. So here, one of the analogies by this we can understand who exactly suffers. Now, here the example by Maitreya Muni is that the living entity in distress regarding his self-identity. He has no factual background, like a man who dreams that he sees his head cut off. Now, this is very important. We'll see the purport and I'll explain something. A teacher in school once threatened his pupil that he would cut off the pupil's head and hang it on the wall so that the child could see how his head had been cut off. The child became frightened and stopped his mischief. Similarly, the miseries of the pure soul and the disruption of his self identification are managed by the external energy of Lord, which controls these mischievous living entities who want to go against the will of Lord. Actually, there's no bondage or misery for the living entity, nor does he ever loses his pure knowledge. That means living entity is always pure only, no bondage for living entity. In his pure consciousness, when he thinks a little seriously about his position, he can understand that he is eternally subordinate to the mercy of the Supreme Lord, Supreme, and that his attempt to become one with the Supreme Lord is false illusion. Life after life, the living entity falsely tries to lord it over matter nature and becomes a lord of material world, but there is no tangible result, as at least when frustrated, he gives up his material activity and tries to become one with the Lord and speculate with much jugglery of words but without success. Now, the point is, if my head is cut off, how will I see? That's what Prabhupada is going to explain here. Another important is who is suffering? The soul is suffering or ego is suffering? Who gets the pain? Ego gets the pain. So if somebody is slapping, I didn't get pain much to the body, but ego got so much pain. How can this girl beat me? So we are not allowing only that. Why it is? Because now sometimes we feel oh, soul is also suffering. Now both are not actually correct. Because the false ego is dead, is a matter. Matter will not have much problem. If I scold this table, it will not retaliate because it's matter. False ego is also matter. And here, the spirit soul is always pure. So these activities are performed, but now where is the problem? We will try to understand. Soul in a deep sleep state, the example is given of a deep sleep. If you are in a deep sleep state, what happens is we will be very free from all the sufferings. Even if somebody is going through cancer, if he's in a deep sleep state, he will be able to forget everything about cancer, about his fourth degree of cancer, is going to die in few days. Nothing he will remember. In a deep sleep state, he is Brahma Bhuta Prasanna, is completely satisfied. Now, because that is at the soul level, that means soul never get pain. Now, we will, but this is actually the point. The soul is pure, false ego is dead, but there is still some experience of pain. This is actually the power of illusory energy. It makes us connected, and and who experiences that is still. It's like a dream. If we are in a dream, we are feeling somebody is chasing me. Sometimes get nightmare that I'm writing my 10th class exams, some college exams. So, my God, I didn't prepare anything. Like, how can I write this exam? And suddenly you get up and you feel, oh, such a relief. I don't have to write the exam. Now, now who experienced the pain? Your experience. As a soul is unaffected, false egos. The dream is actually, this is actually dream. So, Prabhupada, right? These activities are performed under the dictations of illusion energy. So the experience is compared to the experience of once having the head cut off in a dream. The man whose head has been cut off also sees that his head has been cut off. If a person's head is severed, he loses his power to see. Therefore, if a man sees that his head has been cut off, it means that he thinks like that in hallucination. Similarly, a living entity is eternally subordinate to Supreme Lord, and he has this knowledge within him. But artificially he thinks that he is God himself and that although he is God, he has lost his knowledge due to Maya. This conception has no meaning, just as there is no meaning to see one's head being cut off. This is the process by which knowledge is covered. And because this artificial rebellious condition of living entities give him all trouble, it is to be understood that he should take to this normal life as a devotee of Lord and be relieved from misconceptions of being God. The so-called liberation of thinking oneself God is that last reaction of avidya by which the living entities enter. The conclusion is that the living entity deprived of eternal transcendental service to the Lord becomes illusioned by many ways. So the illusion is causing the pain. Soul does not suffer, ego does not suffer, but the illusion is caused of that. Even in his conditioned life, he is eternal servant of Lord. His servitude under the spell of illusory Maya is also a manifestation of his eternal condition of service, because he has rebelled against the service of Lord. He is therefore put into service of Maya. So this is the point. We'll just, and the example is nice example is given here. As a moon reflected on water appears to the seer to tremble due to being associated with the quality of water. So the self associated with matter appears to have qualities of matter. Now moon's is shadow, so reflection is there in water. By any change in water, will it affect the moon? No. Similarly, any change here will never affect the soul. But, and matter, similarly, here also. So the self-associated matter appears to have qualities of what matter. So it looks that this moon is getting affected. The reflection is getting affected, not the original. Similarly, it looks that we are getting affected in the association of matter. The supreme law, supreme soul, the personality of God, it is compared to the moon in the sky, and the living entities compared to the reflection on the moon on water. The moon in the sky is fixed and does not appear to quiver like the moon on the water. So here this is analogy is for this purpose, another purpose. Actually, like the original moon in sky, the moon reflected on the water should also not quiver, but because the being associated with water, the reflection appears to be quivering. Although it is actual fact that the moon is fixed. The water moves, but the moon does not move. Similarly, the living entity appears to be tainted by material qualities like illusion, lamentation, miseries. Although in the pure spirit, pure soul, such qualities are completely absent. Right? The soul will not have any of these things. It's always pure only. The word pratiyate, which means apparently of not actually. Like the experience of having one's head cut off in a dream is significant here. The reflection of moon and water is the separated rays of moon and not the actual moon. The separated part and parcel of Lord, entangled in the water of material existence, have the quivering quality, whereas the is like the actual moon in the sky, which is not at all touched with water. So, very nice example. That the moon is there, moon is Supreme Lord, right? And the rays are coming from the moon, and rays are coming like they are counted as living entities. And when they fall on the water, it starts quivering. They say yes. Supreme Lord as a moon is unaffected. But the living entity who touches the material nature is compared to water. So the rays are touching the water, and if there is a change in water, then the reflection is also affected. The separate part and parcel of Lord, entangled in water of material existence, have the quivering quality, whereas the Lord is like the actual moon in the sky, which is not at all in touch with water. The light of sun and moon reflected on matter makes the matter bright and praiseworthy. So, the light of the sun and moon reflected on matter makes the matter. The living symptoms are compared to the light of the sun and the moon, illuminating material manifestation like trees and mountains. The reflection of sun or moon is accepted as the real sun or moon by less intelligent men, and the pure monistic philosophers develop from these ideas. In fact, the light of the sun and the moon are actually different from the sun and moon themselves, although they are always connected. So now we have sunlight here. Sunlight is there, but it is separated from sun, but it is connected to sun. Achintya Veda. The light of the moon separated through the sky appears to be impersonal, but the moon planet as it is personal, and the living entities on the moon planet are also personal. The rays of moon, different material entities appear to be comparatively more or less important. The light of the sun, so the light of moon on Taj Mahal appears to be more beautiful than the same light in wilderness. Although the light of moon is the same everywhere, due to being differently appreciated in different areas. Similarly, the light of Lord is equally distributed everywhere, but due to being differently received, it appears to be different. If it is on Taj Mahal, it is shining. If it is on some dark place, sorry, on the ground, it does not make difference. One should not therefore accept the reflection of moon and water as actual and misunderstand the whole situation. So hope you understood the analogy. And it says Savai Nivritti Dharmena Vasudevanukampaya Bhagavad Bhakti Yogena Tikiro Aneriha. It says, but that misconception of self-identity can be diminished gradually by the mercy of the personality of God. Vasudeva, although the process of devotional service to the Lord is in the mode of detachment. So the quivering quality of material existence, which comes from identification with matter or from thinking oneself to be God due to the material influence of the uh, philosophical speculation, can be eradicated by devotional service to the Lord by the mercy of personality of God at Vasudeva. As discussed in the first canto, because the application for devotional service to Lord Vasudeva invites pure knowledge, it quickly detaches one from the material life and thus receives one's normal condition of spiritual existence, even in this life, and free one from the material winds which causes one to quiver. So our identification is the problem. The soul, when he identifies with matter, whatever happens. So another example we give of a person watching a movie. He's watching a movie. Now something is happening in the movie. It is affecting this person. Now, as such, is he getting affected? He's sitting in theater eating his popcorn. Nothing is happening to him. Will the screen where it is projected, all these movies seeing on screen, will the screen has any problem because of what is projected there? No. Now, living entity is pure and it is not affected, it is not affecting the screen. But because I identify, that's the point. That is causing the pain, that is causing the emotions, good or bad, whatever. Now, the living entity is pure, false ego does not get pain, but the connection is actually the pain. Right to understand. The connection of false ego with the soul is cause of pain. Now, what is sadhana? We have to remove this connection and we are out of it. That's why to remove the false ego, Parashar says, oh, it's just like plucking a flower or blinking eyes. That much simple for them. Only knowledge and devotional service can elevate one towards the path of liberation. The development of knowledge for the purpose of Knowing everything without rendering devotional service is considered fruitless labor, and one cannot get the desired result by such a labor of love. Lord Vasudev is pleased by devotional service only, and thus his mercy is realized by association with pure devotees of the Lord. Pure devotees of the Lord are transcendental to all material desires, including the desire of results of fruitive activities and philosophical speculation. Hope till now it is clear. Any questions, comments on this? Okay, good. You are clear with the concept. How the living entity does not get affected, false ego is dead, does not. The connection gets affected. That is it. यदेन्द्रियो परामो अत दृष्टात्मनि परे हरो विलीयते तदा क्लेश संसुपच्चेव कृष्णसः. It says when the senses are satisfied in the seer super soul, the personality of Godhead, and merge in him, all miseries are completely vanquished as after a sound sleep. So this is another nice explanation. The question is, but only by knowledge this illusion will not go unless and until one engages in pure devotional service. No, there is yoga and jnana, that paths are also there. They have the aspect of bhakti in it, but these are also the paths where a person can get self-realization. Ashtanga yogis, jnanis, they also work very hard for this. So it is not that it will not happen. It happens like. But there is a tinge of bhakti. It's not that they need to do pure devotional service. Need not be. They do so much austerity just to get that connection removed between false ego and soul. And this also is a nice shloka. When the senses are satisfied in the seer super soul, the personality of Godhead, and merged in him, all miseries are completely vanquished as it. Now, what we are doing, we are trying to uh, be engage our senses in the service of Lord. We become completely satisfied. Then we'll be free from this avidya, the ignorance. That is the point. And it looks like as if a person got from a sound sleep. Prabhupada writes, the covering of living entity as described above is due to the senses. Since the entire material existence is meant for sense gratification, the senses are the medium of material activity and the cause the quivering of the steady soul. Soul is steady, but the senses are moving. So it looks like. Therefore, the senses are to be detached from all such material activities. According to impulsive senses are to be stopped from working by merging the soul within the super soul, supreme Brahman. The devotees, however, do not stop the material senses from acting, but rather engage the transcendental senses in the service of the transcendence, the supreme personality of Godhead. In either case, the activities of the senses in the material field are to be stopped by cultivation of knowledge, and if possible, the senses should be engaged in the service of Lord. For us, what we do is we engage in service of Lord. Then what the senses do? They start quivering. They become stable. And then we will be able to see ourselves because so much disturbance, we cannot see the image properly in the water reflection. But if water becomes calm, then we can see. And when they become calm, then the senses are calm. Like that. The senses are transcendental nature, but their activity becomes polluted when contaminated by water, so by matter. We have to treat the senses to cure them of the material desires. True? Not stop them from acting as suggested by impersonalists. It is said that one ceases all material activities only when satisfied by contact with a better engagement. So we want to engage our senses. Some of them they say, Prabhuji, we have wasted our life. No, completely we want to engage in service of Lord. This is actually is needed. Consciousness is active by nature and cannot be stopped from working. Artificially stopping a mischievous child is not the real remedy. The child must be given some better engagement so that he will automatically stop causing mischief. This we all have experienced. Try to stop, nothing happens. You have to give some engagement. In the same way, the mischievous activities of the senses can be compared only by better engagement in relation with Supreme Lord. When the senses are engaged in saying the beautiful form of the Lord, the tongue in engaging in taking prasadam or remnants of foodstuff offered to the Lord, the ears are engaged in hearing His glories, and the hands are engaged in cleaning the temple of the Lord, the legs are engaged in visiting holy places. Or, in other words, when all the senses are engaged in the transcendental variegatedness, then only can the transcendental senses become fully satisfied and eternally free from material engagement. So this is the point here. Next shloka says, Asesa Sanklesha Samam Vidatte Gunanuvada Shravanam Murare Kimva Punas Tacharanaaravinda Paragya Seva Ratiratmanabha. This is simply by chanting and hearing of the transcendental name, form, etc., the personality of God Sri Krishna, one can achieve the essence of unlimited miserable conditions. One can achieve the cessation of unlimited material conditioning. Therefore, what to speak of those who have attained attraction for serving the flavor of dust of Lord's lotus feet? Even if somebody just heard only, he can seize. And what to speak of who is serving? He'll get much more, right? And Prabhupada reading big purports here because they are very important concepts that are covered. Two different methods of for controlling the material senses are recommended in Vedic scriptures. Vedic scriptural wisdom. One of them is process of jnana, and this is not we don't follow. The other is that of direct engagement in the transcendental loving service, which we are trying to do. Of these two most popular methods, the path of devotional service is recommended here as the best because no one in the path of devotional service does not have to wait for the attainment of the fruitive results of pious activities or for the results of knowledge. The two stages of executing devotional service are first the stage of practicing. So the two stages of devotional service are first the stage of practicing devotional service with our present senses under the regulation of recognized scriptures, and the second attaining sincere attachment for serving the particles of dust of the lotus feet of the Lord. The first stage of sadhana, first stage is called sadhana bhakti, and then the second stage is called raga bhakti. The great sage Maitreya now gives final answer to all questions of Vidura. Devotional service to the Lord is the ultimate means for mitigating all miserable conditions of material existence. That is the solution he gives. Devotional. The path of knowledge or the mystic gymnasticism may be adopted as a matter of achieving that purpose, but unless mixed with bhakti or devotional service, they are unable to avoid the desired result. So even if they are there, they should have bhakti in this. Next shloka is Vidara Sanchina Samshayo Mahyam Tava Sukha Tasina Vibhu Ubhayatrapi Bhagavan Manome Sampradhavanti. Vidura said, "O powerful sage, my lord, all my doubts about the supreme personality of Godhead and the living entity has now been removed by your convincing words. My lord, my mind is now perfectly entering into them." So this is what happened to Vidura after hearing these verses. It didn't happen to us, so don't worry. After that, he got completely convinced. He's sitting with Maitreya, so will have effect. We are also sitting with Maitreya only by hearing this, but still. The signs of Krishna, the signs of God and the living entity is so subtle that even a personality like Vidura had to consult persons like great Maitreya. Doubts about the eternal relationship of Lord and the living entity are created by mental speculators in different ways, but the conclusive fact is that relationship of God and the living entity is one of the predominator and predominated. Now, that is the reason these questions are asked again and again by many different personalities, and every time we get a different answer. The reason is here that the doubts about the relationship of Lord and living entity are created by mental spectrum in different ways. So, different living entities, their understanding is different. But the conclusive fact is that the relationship of a living entity is one of the predominator and predominant. The Lord is the eternal predominator, living entities are eternally predominated. Real knowledge of this relationship entails reviving the lost consciousness to this standard, and the process for such revival is devotional service to the Lord. By gaining a clear understanding from authorities like Sage Maitreya, one can become situated in real knowledge and the disturbed mind can be fixed. So basically, we have to calm the mind to separate our connection between the false ego and our soul. We have to calm our mind. To calm our mind, what we have to do? We have to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. So that makes our mind calm. So we can cut off the connection. So that means if a person is sleeping, is dreaming and is horrible in the dream, what we should do? Just wake him up. Then he can come out of the dream and is peaceful. Similarly for us, we are so much in this dream. It's actually a very big nightmare. I just have to cut the connection. सात्व एतव्याहृतं विद्वन् नात्ममायाय न मायायनं हरे अभात्य अपार्थं निर्मूलं विश्वमूलं न यद्बहि. O learned sage, your explanations are very good as they should be. Disturbance to the conditioned souls have no other basis than the movement of external energy of the Lord. The living entity's unlawful desire to become one with the Lord in every respect is the root cause of entire material manifestation. For otherwise, the Lord has no need to create such manifestation, even for his pastimes. So the conditioned souls under the spell of external energy of Lord falsely suffers many unfortunate incidents in material life. The Lord is the predominator of external energy, Maya, whereas the living entity is predominated by the same Maya under the material conditions. Take one. यश्च मोदतमो लोके यश्च बुद्धे परं गतः त्वा उभौ सुखम् एतत्ते क्लिश्यति अन्तरितो जनः. Says, both the lowest of fool and he who is transcendental to all intelligence enjoys happiness, whereas person between them suffers the material pangs. So two people are happy. One is the foolest, lowest of the fool, and one is trans. Prabhupada writes, the lowest of fool do not understand material miseries. They pass their life merely and do not inquire into the miseries of life. Now, presently, many people are like that only. Such persons are almost on the level of animals who, although in eyes of superiors are always miserable life, are unaware of material distress. A hog's life is degraded in its standard of happiness, which entitles living in a filthy place, engaging in sex enjoyment at every opportune moment, and laboring hard in a struggle for existence. But this is unknown to the hog. Similarly, human beings who are unaware of the miseries of material existence are happy in sex life and hard labor are the lowest of fools. Yet, because they have no sense of misery, they supposedly enjoy so called life. The other class of men, those who are liberated and are situated in transcendental position above intelligence, are really happy and are called Paramahamsas. But persons who are neither like hogs and dogs nor on the level of Paramahamsa feels the material planks and for they inquire about the supreme truth is necessary. The Vedanta Sutra also states, Atato Brahma Jnasa. Now one should inquire about Brahman. This inquiry is necessary for those who are between the Paramahamsas and the fools who have forgotten the questions of self-realization in the midst of life in sense gratification. This Atato Brahma Jnasa don't happen to the people around. अताभावं विनिश्चैत्य प्रतीतस्यापि महात्मनः तां चापि युष्मच्चरण सेवायाहं पदा प्राणुदे. My dear sir, my dear sir, I am obliged to you because now I can understand that this material manifestation is without substance, although it appears real. I am confident that by serving your feet, I will be able to give up the false idea. So this is Vidura is telling to Maitreya. The suffering of conditioned souls are superficial and have no intrinsic value, like the cutting of one's head in a dream. Yet, although this statement is theoretically true, it is very difficult for the common man or the neophyte or the transcendental path to self-realize practically. However, by serving the feet of great transcendentalists like Maitreya Muni and by constantly associating with them, one is able to give up the false idea that the soul suffers material pangs. Yet sevaya bhagavataha kutastha madhu dishaha ratiraso bhaveti braha pradyor vasya dritanaha vyasanuraddanaha. He says, by serving the lotus feet of the spiritual master, one is able to develop transcendental ecstasy in the service of personality of Godhead, who is unchangeable, enemy of the Madhu demon, and whose service vanquishes one's material distress. We'll try to this just this two and then we'll let. The association of bona fide spiritual master like sage Maitreya can be absolute help in achieving the transcendental attachment for the direct service of Lord. The Lord is eternal and Madhu, demon, or in other words, he is enemy of suffering of his pure devotees. The word Rati Rasaha is significant in this verse. Service to the Lord is rendered in different transcendental mellows: neutral, active, friendly, parental, and nuptial. So another shloka is this is a very famous shloka. Durapayhil patapasa seva vaikuntavatmasu yatropagiyate nityam deva deva janardana. Very famous shloka. It says, persons whose austerity is meager can hardly obtain the service of the pure devotional process, progressing on the path back to the kingdom of God, the Vaikuntha Lokas. Pure devotees engage 100% in glorifying the Supreme Lord, who is the Lord of the demigods and controller of all living entities. Prabhupada writes, but the path of liberation recommended by all authorities is to serve the Mahatmas or Transcendentalists. As far as Bhagavad Gita is concerned, the Mahatmas are pure devotees who, on the path of Vaikuntha, the kingdom of God, and who always chants and hears the glories of the Lord rather than talk of dry, profitless philosophy. This system of association has been recommended since time immemorial, but in this age of quarrel hypocrisy, it is especially recommended by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Even if one has no assertive of favorable austerities, assets of favor, if one nevertheless take shelter of Mahatmas, engage in pure devotional service of chanting and hearing the glories of Lord, one is sure to make progress on the path home back to God. So we will end here because it's too philosophical. We'll only take this. So we have 20, 42. Yeah, half of the chapter we completed. Thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam.